Hello and welcome to Army Live. I'm Sergeant Lucy Foreman.
And I'm Corporal Hamish Gorsuch-Wright. We'll be your presenters for Army Live, our online event series designed to give you the inside scoop on what life in the Army is really like.
Over the next few days, we'll be hosting events from the Lark Hill Artillery Barracks, home of the Army's Artillery Training Centre. All of the events should give you a glimpse inside some of the different elements of the Army.
Yesterday, we hosted Welcome to Army Life, where we spoke to Gunner Carla Todd, a Royal Artillery gunner, who introduced us to life as a recruit, and we answered your questions in our live Q&A.
And we also went on a tour of Lark Hill Camp, giving us a more in-depth look around the barracks.
If you missed yesterday's event, you can watch our interview with Carla and our Lark Hill Camp tour at the Army Jobs website. And if your questions weren't answered in the Q&A, just type them into the chat box and one of our moderators will be able to help.
But today, we're not discussing Army life, we're discussing Army careers and the huge range of opportunities available. There really is an Army career for everyone. So, we've got Sergeant Jamie Reeve and Lance Corporal Megan Wilson with us to walk us through some of those opportunities.
It should be a really interesting chat. So let's talk to Sergeant Reeve and Lance Corporal Wilson.
Yeah.
Hi there. So first of all, if we can sort of go into what your roles are in the Army and sort of what that job entails.
Yeah, so I'm an infantry soldier, but I also work with communications as well. So I make sure that my unit can talk wherever we are. At the moment, I'm doing recruitment within recruitment group. So we're trying to get in the new population for the Army, so the future of, if you will, into the offices and through into training.
Cool. And yourself, Lance Corporal Wilson?
Yeah, so I'm a dental nurse, so my trade involves assisting the dentist every day in the dental centre. Also, we can be doing practice management as well, and just basically all the healthcare things within the dental centre.
Cool.
So we're talking about like where do we fit in and where do you guys fit in? What made you want to join and what kind of got you to join up with the Army?
So I worked on the NHS as a dental nurse. So I left school at 16 and done that, and then I qualified at the age of 18, and I was looking at what to do next in my life. I really enjoyed working in the clinical environment, but I really wanted to travel and meet people from all over the place and just have different experiences. So I looked into the Army. I didn't actually know that I could be a dental nurse at that point until I looked into it. And yeah, it was just a no-brainer, really. It just went from there.
So to be honest, I saw the advert on TV 17 years ago. Thought that actually looked really cool. So back then you could press the red button on Sky and they sent an information pack out to your house. So I read through that and I went to my Northampton careers office. And then about 3 months later, I was into basic training.
So for yourself, Sergeant Reeve, you're working in signals. How did you end up getting into that?
So it's slightly different within an infantry battalion. So we have our own sort of platoon, which is about 30 odd people that will do the communications for our unit. My company, we were about to go on operations and they needed people to be able to operate the radios that we were using. So I got put on the course, found out I was actually pretty decent at it. So I decided after that I was going to take that as my career, and I've done that for 12 years since and done all promotion courses through that as well.
Nice.
So I actually know not a lot about the infantry.
Okay.
So if there's someone watching that wants to join as an infantry soldier, how common is it for someone to join as an infantry soldier but end up in the signals platoon? Very,
very easily. So there's more than one route within an infantry battalion. So I've just done one where it's communications, so being able to communicate no matter where we are, but we have almost like Royal Logistics Corps roles as well, where we have motor transport, where we can be drivers. We also have assault pioneers, which is very similar to a Royal Engineer role, and we've got mortars, which again is very similar to Royal Artillery. So there are quite a lot of different trades that you can do within an infantry battalion. So even if you're not quite happy with your infantier role, there's always a sort of trade that you can sort of fall back on within that unit. And then if you really enjoy that, you can transfer out and do that for the rest of your career in a different unit as well.
And that's something that you can choose yourself to go into?
Yeah, 100%. So you can either get told to go on a course, which sometimes does happen, but a lot of people do volunteer to go on these courses as well because they want to get the extra qualifications through. Because I've got 2 apprenticeships now because of it, because I've done my security one being an infantry soldier, but I've also done a telecommunications apprenticeship through being an infantry signaller as well. So the education sort of advancement as well is really good through that.
It's a good personal development.
Yeah, brilliant.
A lot of choice everywhere then, isn't it?
100%, yeah.
And for you, Lance Corporal Wilson, what's it like being a dental nurse? Because I did not know we had dental nurses in the Army before I went to the med centre, and someone said, I'm actually not a civilian, I'm a military dental nurse.
Yeah, so it's good. It's a structured role, so you know what you're doing every day. You've got quite a lot of responsibility. Where even we start off as Lance Corporals, so we can be running a dental practice as a Lance Corporal. So a lot is expected of you, but you do get civilian qualifications. So you can either train as a dental nurse from the Army, so they'll put you through your training, or you can join already qualified, which is what I've done. And there's other qualifications you can get as a dental nurse. So you can get more clinical ones, or you can go into the admin side as well.
So you mentioned obviously that you were working within the sort of dental field beforehand. What are the main differences that you've experienced between the NHS and the Army?
Yeah, so the main difference is the patient workload. So on the NHS, obviously you have to deal with the general public, and there'll be so many people registered to that dental practice, and there'll be constant appointments. Same way it is in the military, you do still have constant appointments, but you're only dealing with military personnel. So you prioritise people that are deploying. So if there's a unit going away, then you make sure that they're all seen to. And also it's a duty in the military that you have to go and get your dental check as well. So everybody has to be taken care of and made sure
Getting
that...
chased up by the med centre for those appointments.
And so you've done both civilian and military. What other kind of differences are there in the career?
I think in the military you've got a lot more personal development, so you can live as well anywhere in the UK. You can get posted to different places, so if you like to travel and go to other areas, then it is a fantastic job to do. And the job is pretty much the same as it would be on the NHS, like what you're doing day by day, but it's just all the extra things that you can do within the military that's a bonus for me.
So elaborate on some of those extra things for us.
Yeah, so you can go on the Adventurous training, you can come do other types of roles. So at the minute I'm in an E2 role, so I'm doing Army engagement, which involves going and speaking to the general public about what the Army does. So that's a role I can do as a dental nurse, and then I'll go back into my clinical role, as well as keeping up my clinical hours as well.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't joined already qualified, are the qualifications that you've got kind of civilian based for when you leave the
so
the
it is a
Army?
really good qualification you get. It's an NEBDN qualification, which means it's recognisable when you leave the military. If you want to go into a dental role, then you're well set up and you can get jobs easily.
So you both mentioned that you work in recruitment and engagement. So what does that involve?
So for me, that's trying to recruit the future of the Army. So trying to get school leavers. We've gone into the schools and sort of promoted the different job roles within the Army that they might want to do. But also people that are outside of that, so the general public between the ages of 18 and 35, to try and find a role that's best suited to them, to help with obviously recruitment numbers and obviously units, filling the spaces that we need for those.
Yeah. And for yourself?
Yeah, engagement's similar, but we don't recruit to the Army, we just inform. So we go to, my team's part of the youth team, so we go and speak to youth communities, so it could be in schools, colleges, scouts, things like that, and we just basically do activities with them, do a presentation to kind of myth bust about what people might think the Army is about and to what it actually is.
And I'm sure you get asked hundreds of questions, but what are some of the more common questions, and more importantly, what are the answers to those questions?
So what sort of jobs are available? So we have 7 different career streams, but within that, there's over 240 roles that you can do. And people are sort of taken aback, like, really? There's that many? And it all depends on qualifications you might have, depends on what certain roles. And I always sort of suggest continue with education until it stops being free, because it helps with, being able to get a job, and it's more available to you once you get educated. So I sort of always try and push that when I go to schools. But yeah, so it's mainly the job of how many roles are there and what can I do. But it's normally what the person's interested in, what they might be best suited to, rather than me saying, right, you could be an infantry soldier because that's what I do. They might turn up into that job role and think, I don't like this. Why did I listen to that person in the careers office? So I'm trying to sort of tailor make their sort of job role for them so they enjoy it. Because when you enjoy work, you don't really see it as work.
A lot for me is they don't realise how many females are in the Army. So when we have a couple of us there, they're quite shocked. And also they don't realise how many roles are not combat related as well.
So you just touched on that there about the combat roles. So beyond combat roles in the Army, what jobs are available?
So there's 70% of the Army is not combat related. So we split it into streams. So we've got medical, HR, logistics, intelligence, music, lots of different roles all within them streams. So there's quite a lot of different jobs that aren't combat.
Taking my job off me. Yeah, so within the 7 career streams, there is only one dedicated to combat. And within that, you've got infantry, Royal Armour Corps, which is tanks, Royal Artillery, and the Army Air Corps. But everything else is a support role or support element. And a lot of people as well, when they see the musician role, they're like, I can play music in the Army. I'm like, yeah, so whatever instrument they can play as well, the Army will teach them a second one, but they get to play instruments in the work time, so it's getting paid to do your hobby.
Yeah.
As well as that, maybe doing a bit of ceremonial stuff every now and again. So a lot of people don't realise that a lot of it is supporting the rest of what everybody does.
Yeah.
Building stuff, fixing things, making sure people can deploy, make pace correct. There's a lot of different support elements within the Army. It's not just combat orientated or male focused. So,
Keeping the whole running.
Yeah.
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 And how much training would you say were involved in these roles that are kind of non-traditional combat?
So again, it would all vary depending on the job role that a person would take. So for example, if you wanted to join up as an Army nurse, but you hadn't gone to university, so if you get enough UCAS points for your A-levels, the Army will send you to Birmingham University for 3 years to qualify you as a nurse. So again, depending on the job role you want to do, is varying on the length of time you're in training for.
So you're getting a degree and you're getting a wage.
But that's not the
to
only
earn a
job.
degree.
But that's not the only job you can do it. There's a few more, but that's the one I sort of focus on.
A good
because,
example.
Yeah.
I heard about biomedical scientists. I did not know the Army had
Yeah.
biomedical scientists. And
I know, yeah.
There's quite a few within the medical field that you can do, but things like my trade, so you would do your phase 2, which would be 3 months, and then you would go to your posting, and then you do an apprenticeship, which could take 18 months. So it all depends on what job you do, depending on the training that you get, but most of them are apprenticeships.
Okay. So from your own experiences and sort of what you're aware of in the engagement team, how much of the roles that you're in, how much of that is combat related?
So everyone's phase 1 training is to be focused on combat because everyone needs to be able to know what to do. But once you go into your trade role, even as go into your unit as an infantry soldier, you sort of do a bit of training, but it's more dependent on when you go on operations, when you focus more on that trade role. So it's more going on education, doing other courses that will progress with your career. It's like myself doing signals. It's not combat orientated, but it's to assist with that sort of element. But yeah, so I would say, like I say, it's only like a seventh of what the entire Army does. So for me personally, even as an infantry soldier, it's not a massive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so same for us really. We do our military skills once a year that we have to keep up with, but other than that we'll be doing our structured role, unless if we go on promotion courses then you'll have to do some more combat related skills, but it can also be dependent on what kind of job you're in. So if you get attached to a medical regiment you might do a little bit more. It's all completely down to you, but if you don't want to then you don't have to.
Okay.
so you are still trained for combat, even though you're not that's not your main role.
Yeah, still trained from basic training.
And although you're in very different jobs, what do deployments look like for both of you?
So for myself, it's a very more robust sort of scenario. So even with me being infantry signals, it's out in the field quite a bit. So we have what we call our battle group main, where we set up our command node, if you will, and make sure that our unit knows what's going on at each point of an exercise or an operation. And so we facilitate that with the communication side of things.
Yeah, for me, so I would be in the attached area. So for instance, Afghanistan, I would be in Camp Bastion within the medical facility, treating patients there. And depending on the deployment, we tend to stay in the clinical area.
Thank you both so much for your time. We are going to come back later with some audience questions. But now it's time for Jimmy and Megan to answer some of your questions.
So what is the most unusual job you've heard of in the Army?
Wow, so when I first started doing recruitment group and was recruiting for the future of the Army, I didn't ever realise there was biomedical science. I didn't even know that was a thing. And I was probably really naive of me, but that's the most obscure one I've sort of seen so far.
I'd probably say a vet nurse. I didn't know they existed. So yeah, that's one.
So for both of you, can you use your trades outside in sort of civilian life?
Yeah, I definitely can. My trade is transferable. The skills you get is recognised on Civvy Street.
So mine is more IT focused now, so I can sort of get out and work for sort of Cisco blue screen IT companies because I've already got sort of the courses behind me paid for by the Army and the experience that I've gathered from my job role, and I can get out and work for those contract firms. So yeah, so anything we learn through the Army now, especially from recruit stage where we're going through, it's transferable into civilian.
And say I was joining up now, how do I find the right job for me?
So the first thing I would ask you is, minus wanting an Army job, wanting to be rich, playing your favourite sport professionally, what would be the dream job? What would you want to do for the rest of your career? and sort of get that sort of question going, and then have a look on the Army Role Finder, because 9 times out of 10 when you type it in, there's a job that pop up underneath, and that'll be one probably best suited to you.
Yeah, so when you go through the recruitment process, you can find out about different jobs based on what your score is from your BARB test, and then you'll get a range of different jobs you can look into.
Okay. If I was to be leaving the Army, would I have to pay for any sort of courses like that?
So you can, but the Army helps provide you with financial help with courses you want to do. So we have enhanced learning credits. So if you've been in the Army for longer than 6 years, you get 3 lots of £2,000 that you can put towards any courses you want to do. And the Army will also help with a resettlement scheme as well, to sort of transition you from being in the Army back to being a civilian again.
Nice.
So what kind of opportunities are there to work with technology in the Army?
With technology, quite a lot to be fair. So I've noticed within the Army Engagement Group, I'm doing a role at the minute which is a lot of presenting, and we're using a lot of different technology for that. So in that side of technology anyway, there's a lot there.
Especially in communications as well. So we deal with all the radio systems that we talk on, as well as like data communications and satellite communications as well. So the Army is sort of progressing now. We've even got this sort of situational awareness tool. It's almost looking like a phone that just attaches to your body arm. You flip it down, you can see where you're on a map. So, you know, the Army is progressing with the technology we're using
Some
as
of
well.
the Gucci stuff.
Yeah, really cool stuff.
If I learn a trade, do I still get to do all the things that soldiers do?
Yeah, so even going onto the ranges, doing physical training, everyone does that throughout periods of the year. So physical training is done pretty much every morning. Certain job roles, you only have to do like 2 hours a week. Other job roles, like being in infantry, you do it every morning. Regardless. But yeah, there's always an element of, you know, combat sort of orientated work that any role will need to do as well.
Yeah, definitely. So you can go and become a Phase 1 instructor if you want to, which is all your combat skills, and you can be training people to become soldiers, even as a dental nurse. So there's definitely elements, if you want to do that, you can.
So will I still get to travel if I'm not a combat soldier?
Yes, you can definitely put your name down to do different things, and again, depending on what role you're in. So as a dental nurse, you can get attached to a medical regiment and you'll go wherever the medical regiment go. So you could go on deployments a lot more.
Cool. So where could you be deployed?
So anywhere that the Army has sort of like a foothold. So at the moment, we're not in any active war zones. So it's more humanitarian aid, peacekeeping and disaster relief. So peacekeeping missions you can do at the moment is Estonia, Poland, Mali and Cyprus. They're the ones that I know of off the top of my head. Cyprus is pretty cool. You're out there for 6 months. Cyprus hours is you finish work at 1:30 as well. But yeah, so apart from that, it's going out to different areas. So if, say for example, we're going to do humanitarian aid, Mali is also part of that, handing out food, water and clothing and sort of blankets to help them out as well.
Okay, so here's one then. Can I get my driving license through the Army?
Yeah, so from when we finish Phase 2 training with recruits, they would automatically get put on an intensive driving course for their Category B, which is car licence. And then when they go to the units, depending on what they need to drive for their job role, they could get anywhere up to C+E, which is articulated lorry, and even hazmat if that is what they need to do for their job role as well.
So you can go from not driving anything to driving some of the biggest vehicles around in how long of a period?
Absolutely. So one role I will go into, so Rural Logistics Corps driver, so they will do that all through their Phase 2. So I think it's up to 14 weeks that they're on that for in Leconfield, getting all of the driving licences they need.
Boom, there we go.
Yeah, being a driver, about 8 weeks took me to get all my driving licences from, I had a car licence before I joined, but everything after that, I've now got a coach licence as well, about 8 weeks. So yeah, it's really intensive.
Great question for you actually, Lance Corporal Wilson. If you already have a trade, what's the advantage of joining the Army?
So you don't have to do your Phase 2. So when I joined up, I went to Aldershot for a week and then I was straight posted to Germany. So that's a good thing about it. You just do the military learning of it, so you know how to use the system, but the job, you know it anyway. And also you get seniority quicker because you have that level of experience already. So
there we go.
So will I definitely get into the unit I want to get into if I apply?
So again, depending if you're prior qualified like Megan is, then yeah, you probably will do because it's going to be the medical regiment that they're looking to join. But if it's infantry and certain other roles, we don't specifically put people in for their choice of unit, if you will. So say, for example, someone from my area that wants to join up and join 2 Royal Anglian that I'm in, they might not necessarily get that unless they've got a family connection or friends that are in that unit already, because it's prioritised on where the Army needs their personnel.
Okay. And probably for both of you, actually. So how much do you get, how much choice, sorry, do you get about your deployments and career opportunities?
Yeah, so with the new portal that's came out, you've got a lot more say in where you get posted to. So you have to put in your options. You don't always get your first choice. Sometimes you do. It's all dependent on lots of different factors. But there's definitely a lot of opportunities to put down wherever you hope to go and then go from there, really.
Yeah, so no matter what you go through in your career, you'll always speak to your career management staff within your unit that will sort of signpost any sort of jobs that are outside of your unit or training centres that you could be an instructor at. So there is a lot of sort of input that you get with your career as well.
Definitely a tough one. What has been your favourite moment in the Army?
Oh.
You go first.
I would probably say when I went to Kenya. It's always been one of my highlights. When I went out there and done the humanitarian side of things, we went to an orphanage and we brought out lots of toothbrushes and dental equipment, and it was just absolutely eye-opening and amazing. It was one of the best things I've ever done.
Oh, cool.
Kenya, I've stood on Pride Rock. Obviously, everyone sees Lion King,
Yep.
being lifted up. So I've stood on there as well. Didn't pick up a little lion though. But doing the first Freedom Parade in Gibraltar in 57 years was quite a prestigious thing to do. So
Yeah.
that's been pretty cool.
Nice.
That's great, and I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. So thank you to Jamie and Megan for answering our audience's questions. Don't worry if yours weren't answered. Our moderators will try and get back to you as soon as they can. You'll also find out more about joining the Army and apply directly at the Army Jobs website.
Thanks for watching. Goodbye.